This is what you call a flip.
I love it, man.
My verified bucket right there.
There you go.
For sure. That's dope.
The greatest flip of all time.
Come on, man. Easy money right there. Easy $2 billion in 2 years.
To what Mark Walter paid for the Lakers back last year, which was $10 billion. And at some point, these two guys are pretty smart and they go, well, why would we buy an expansion team for 10 and then have to spend another 2.5 to build a stadium in Vegas without at least calling Mark Walter and seeing if we could buy the Lakers for 12.5.
$12.5 billion for one basketball franchise. Is that actually a bargain, or did somebody just pay an absurd premium? Stay with me, because by the end, the answer will make a lot more sense than the headline number alone. Mark Walter purchased the legendary Lakers from the Buss family last October for $10 billion, which at the time represented the largest franchise sale in North American sports history. Then, only 14 months later, Walter is already exiting. Bob Iger and Josh Kushner are reportedly stepping in at a valuation of $12.5 billion, and the transaction came together so quietly and so quickly that even the reporter who broke the news initially had trouble believing it was real.
And the person who called me said, are you sitting down? And I'm sitting down now, but I'm still kind of shaking my head at how this came together so quickly.
That reporter was Ramona Shelburne, and she explained that confirming the story took practically the entire night. There was no long trail of leaks, no month of whispers around the league, and no public bidding frenzy building toward an obvious conclusion. Instead, the entire thing surfaced from what amounted to a Sunday phone call, leaving even people plugged directly into the Lakers stunned by how suddenly the ownership picture had changed.
Yeah, so this came together incredibly fast. So Josh Kushner and Bob Iger were involved in the expansion process in Las Vegas. They had a bid group together. And the bidding in Las Vegas was getting extremely high. At some point, they looked around and said, why are we bidding on an expansion team? Before we do this, let's call and see if the Lakers are available. They're both.
And that is what makes the origin of this deal so interesting, because Iger and Kushner apparently were not initially shopping for the Lakers at all. They were already preparing to spend billions creating a brand new NBA franchise in Las Vegas. Somewhere during that process, they started comparing the economics and realized something important. If they were going to spend close to franchise-changing money building an organization from the ground up, purchasing one of the most recognizable championship brands in all of sports might actually be the more efficient move.
In LA with the Lakers. We don't own the arena, okay? We don't own the arena. But if it's going to cost us $10 billion to try to build a brand, $12.5 billion does make a lot of sense if you just have an extra $2.5 billion sitting around.
The math becomes much easier to understand when you frame it that way. A Las Vegas expansion franchise. Once you account for the expansion fee, arena investment, infrastructure, roster construction, staffing, marketing, and everything required to launch from nothing, was already projected to approach $10 billion. The Lakers were another $2.5 billion above that figure. But instead of receiving an empty shell, the buyers get an established superstar-level roster, decades of championship history, global recognition, and one of the largest built-in fan bases in sports. And these are not simply two wealthy basketball fans making an emotional purchase. Josh Kushner operates Thrive Capital, and a newer investment arm called Thrive Eternal was specifically created to acquire enduring legacy brands. Earlier this year, one of its first sports moves involved purchasing a stake in the San Francisco Giants. In other words, the Lakers fit almost perfectly with the kind of iconic asset that vehicle was designed to pursue. This looks far more like disciplined brand acquisition than billionaire impulse spending. But that immediately creates another question. If the Lakers are such a valuable long-term asset, why would Mark Walter sell barely more than a year after paying $10 billion to acquire them?
It was approved by the Board of Governors at $10 billion. So from October of last year to right now, he just made $2.5 billion on the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think he was looking to sell, but when somebody makes you an offer you can't refuse. I think it was a business opportunity he couldn't say no to. And
Walter's public explanation emphasized what the franchise meant to him personally. In his statement, he described owning the star-filled Lakers as one of the great honors of his life and stressed that the organization ultimately belongs to Los Angeles. Those comments are public, legitimate, and deserve to be represented accurately. But sitting beside that sentimental language is a much harder financial reality, a $2.5 billion increase in value over approximately 14 months. That is an extraordinary return on an asset Walter had only recently positioned himself as someone prepared to steward for years. There is also another public piece of this story that needs to be handled carefully rather than twisted into something more dramatic than the available facts support.
Look, it's the brand. I mean, and this is, if you're Mark Walter, look, there is this federal investigation that he's been under for the last year or so. I think this predates even his buying of the Lakers, that this is not connected to that, but it obviously was in the background of all of this.
Shelburne directly clarified the situation herself. The investigation that has been discussed publicly began before Walter purchased the Lakers, and according to her reporting, it is not connected to this transaction. That distinction matters. There is no reason to turn timing into causation when the reporter closest to the story has already explained that the two developments should not be presented as linked.
There is a sale agreement in place right now, and it's for Mark Walter's shares, so the Buss family still has a minority stake in this team. What does that mean for them? We're still figuring it all out.
Meanwhile, even the journalist who uncovered the sale could not say with certainty what the long-term outcome means for the Buss family, the group whose identity was intertwined with this franchise for more than 3 decades. Their ownership interest technically remains, but the practical control structure has now moved through 2 separate transactions in less than 2 years. The emotional center of Lakers ownership has shifted astonishingly fast. And perhaps the most revealing detail is that many of the people actually working inside the organization apparently discovered what was happening at essentially the same time fans did.
Mentioned earlier, 2 sales in less than 2 years. Have you spoke to any of the players or people that are in front office positions in that Lakers organization since this last sale?
I think they found out about when I found out. Like, I don't think nobody had really looped everybody in. This happened so fast. I think everybody's just making sense of it now. Like, it all happened fast. They all are, this morning they know, and everybody's wrapping their head around it. But because of how fast this went down, nobody has any idea what this means yet. Like, I've checked in over at the Lakers. They just hired a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So those people, it's business as usual until this sale closes. There's a Board of Governors meeting next month. I guess it could close as soon as that. You asked.
That becomes even more remarkable when you consider what Walter had been doing just before the sale. He spent the offseason reshaping and expanding the Lakers front office, borrowing from the aggressive organizational philosophy that helped transform the Dodgers into a powerhouse. New executives were brought in believing they were helping construct the next era of the franchise under this ownership structure. Then reports emerged that those same hires learned the team they had only recently joined was being sold while the rest of the basketball world was finding out too.
They was a part of the Vegas expansion, but they said, nah, we're going to go ahead and buy the Lakers anyway.
Yeah.
Mark Walter, who just bought the team last year from the Buss family, talk about a flip.
That reaction tells you why this story feels so unusual. People are not merely shocked that the Lakers changed hands again. They are stunned by the speed at which a $10 billion acquisition became a $12.5 billion exit. Bought in October, valued $2.5 billion higher by August, and instead of treating the move like some kind of scandal, commentators were almost admiring the efficiency of it, joking that it might be one of the greatest flips ever completed. That says something about how modern professional sports ownership has changed. Franchise transactions are increasingly discussed like private equity wins, where the first instinct is not necessarily anger but amazement at the return. So now we can answer the question from the beginning. Is $12.5 billion cheap or expensive? In isolation, it sounds almost impossible to justify. But compare it with the roughly $10 billion Iger and Kushner were already preparing to spend creating a Las Vegas organization without the Lakers' championship's market power, roster, history, or global audience, and the logic changes completely. They did not necessarily pay too much. They may have paid a relatively modest premium to skip years of construction and immediately own one of basketball's strongest brands. The groups absorbing the biggest disruption are arguably the Buss family, whose decades-long connection to control of the franchise is now separated by 2 major sales, and the players, executives, and staff who reportedly learned about another ownership transition through breaking news alerts. So imagine the decision is yours. You have $12.5 billion available tonight, and you must buy one NBA franchise. Are you taking the star-powered Lakers, betting on the young and scrappy Thunder, or choosing another organization entirely? Drop your pick below.